Hi, I'm Dr. Fox, licensed psychologist in the state of Texas. And in this video, I really want to address splitting and to let folks know that this is something that is not only done by individuals with BPD. And this is a massive false belief. And in this video, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about splitting. The other disorders, I'm going to give you examples that also split and how that is evident. And then I'm going to give you some strategies to help you manage splitting. I think it's really important, and I hope you'll stick with me through the whole video. That'd be awesome. All right, so please, click, and let's get to it. All right, so there is this false belief, right, that only those with borderline personality disorder or those along the spectrum split. Now, splitting is when you look at yourself, others, or a situation, and you see it as all good or all bad. Now, it can also be called all or nothing thinking, dichotomous thinking, or even black and white thinking. Now, this coping strategy is done by a lot of different individuals for a lot of different reasons. Now, the important thing to realize is that splitting, it actually distorts the reality and it limits your view. So instead of seeing a wide spectrum, which can give you a lot of choices, and granted, that can sometimes cause you to feel overwhelmed, but splitting narrows that. And it says, well, either it's all good or all bad. And what can happen is this splitting, when we see those extremes, it can really activate this sense of anxiety, fear, anger, and it kicks off a lot of protective beliefs, thoughts, feelings, and maladaptive patterns, which splitting is a maladaptive coping strategy. And it's really important that we kind of tease it apart and kind of look at it and figure out what it is, but also that it happens not only in those with BPD, but in other disorders as well. Now, I'm going to go over these different mental health disorders, and I'm also going to give you some quotes that are very common. Now, some of this comes from a blog post, so I do have a blog with Psychology Today, so you can also check this out on there as well. I'll try to put the link in the comment section, right? So if you want to read the blog, that's cool. But I think really what I'm trying to get across is that, splitting again, and I keep saying it because I want to drive this point home, in that splitting is something that is not only done by individuals with BPD, but by folks with other disorders as well. Now, what's interesting about this is that not all disorders have examples of splitting in both directions. This is self and others. In those without personality disorders, the split, it tends to be directed outwardly at others and situations as opposed to the self. Now, with personality disorders, is that split tends to be directed towards others and the self, right? So it's both as opposed to just one way. So let's talk about first, right? Of course, there is BPD and splitting does happen. An example would be, so you're my savior and I'm the devil. And that's that back and forth. And you see that split, right? You have hero and zero, savior and devil. Now, in narcissistic personality disorder, the split tends to be I'm superior and you're a failure, right? I'm superior and you're a failure. That's a split of perception. In antisocial personality disorder, it's I'm powerful and you're weak. And then in PTSD, which it also occurs in those with PTSD as well, is that I'm going to feel this pain forever. And it feels like you're not going to get out. And it feels like that in this extreme term, in this extreme perspective, that there's no way out, that you're stuck. Okay, this is an example. Not everybody is going to have this same thought, right, that illustrates splitting. But it's just an example, and it also is present, PTSD as we know, as we just use that as an example. Additionally, it's obsessive compulsive disorder. And an example of splitting in OCD is I'll never get this clean, I'm contaminated. Okay, so again, it's limited and it's extreme. In generalized anxiety disorder, an example would be there's something terrible around every corner. You get a sense of this component of worry, of this component of what if. And we know, and if you see my other videos on anxiety, we talk a lot about the what ifs and the what is. What is factual based. What if tends to be more anxiety driven, right? Anxiety focused. So the split for generalized anxiety disorder, just to go back to the example, is there's something terrible around every corner. That's the split. And then lastly, major depressive disorder. And those with major depressive disorder, typically the more severe the depression, the greater the likelihood of the split, which is the world will always be against me. I'll never win. And again, these thoughts encourage the symptomatology associated with each of those different disorders. It's really important to realize that the split, again, is a protective mechanism because if it's too wide, right, that can create a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. So the idea is to narrow it, but it is a distorted perception in that the world doesn't work in black and white, that it really works in a shade of gray. And it's so important to realize what strategies that you can adopt to help manage it. And that's what we're going to do now. These are the steps to control the split. And then number one, recognize people or situations that you tend to split, right? Now, this may be romantic, familial, or platonic relationships, or even in work relationships as well. It's that perception of all good and all bad, but we have to catch it first. Now, in the blog post that I mentioned, I do give an example of Yolanda and how she deals with her splitting, the negative consequence of splitting, and in the blog post, I do show each of these steps as it relates to her case. Okay, but I'm not going to do that here, because we just want to hit those components so you can utilize them. If you want to learn about Yolanda, please go check out the blog post. That would be really cool. Okay, so first, right, we got to catch it. Step two is I want you to be aware of the words you're using, and when you use those extreme terms, always, never, forever, everything, everyone, or really sort of locking in terms like you are, right, or I am. Those tend to be very constricting terms, okay? So we want to catch the words, right? We want to catch the split, and we want to catch or recognize the words that we're using that encourage the split. Now, step three is capture these terms, and you want to stop them in their tracks, right? Now, a real good example is I want you to imagine a Venus flytrap, right? And it's snapping and catching those extreme terms. It's just, it's catching them, it's catching them, it's catching them, because we want to catch those extreme terms and not let them run away, right, with us, or us to get attached to them. And then things start to just amplify. That's not what we want. We want to have a greater sense of control, build this sense of insight, and imagine catching those extreme terms that encourage as well as promote the split. Now, step four, okay? I want you to do a body assessment of how you feel after you catch those extreme terms. Now, this might be kind of strange, right? You're catching those terms, right, with your Venus flytrap, right? Then just do a body scan. Do you feel tension? Is it in your shoulders? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your legs? Is it in your feet? Where is it? Or do you feel that you have a greater sense of control and perhaps you can relax a little bit? You're able to breathe a little easier. You feel like you have a greater sense of control because you caught it and it's not getting ahead of you. That snowball effect isn't kicking off, which splitting often does. So we don't want to do that. And then lastly, right, and this is challenging your extreme words, thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, right, with something in the shade of gray. You want to replace those extreme terms with words like some, maybe, or could be. And what happens is, believe it or not, right, the words that we use, not only do they help define the situations we're in, help define how we see ourselves, others, and situations, right? But if we change those terms, that gives us the power to change how we see situations. And the less we split, the more power and control you have over yourself, over your situations, and over your perspectives. And those with BPD, those with NPD, those with PTSD, those with OCD, those with generalized anxiety disorder, GAD, or major depressive disorder, they need those things. They need a greater sense of control over their situations and perspectives of themselves and others. I hope you found this video helpful. Please hit that thumb mark that you liked it, and please leave comments about how you manage your split, what strategies you use, because I think the comment section has in many ways become a community of those with BPD and different mental health disorders helping one another, and that's what this community is about. Helping one another, learning strategies, building insights so you can do things differently. And that is what I hope you're doing with this video and with my others. So thank you very much, and please and have a great day. Bye-bye.